Thank you so much for joining us on Champions of the Future by the Athlete First Foundation, powered by Sporting Ethos, where, of course, the aim is to nurture champions for life. And we are so delighted that the very first mentor of this program is someone who's been a champion all his life. Started his career at the age of in 2003, apologies, and is still going strong as we speak in 2025. So let me do the math. 25 minus 3, 22 years in a country, as much as we may love sport and whatever you might like to say, but the reality is sport and longevity, other than cricket, don't really go hand in hand. It gives me great pleasure and joy, of course, to welcome one and only Saurav Ghosal. Saurav, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. All I'd say is that I've not been a champion all my life. I think it's a learning process. You have to lose before you start winning. So I lost a lot in the very beginning, and I think I learned a lot from that as well. But no, I'm truly humbled to be here, and hopefully as the mentor for the Athlete First Foundation, along with them, we can do some really good work and help young budding athletes realize their potential and really do big things on the world stage.
So I'll ask you about the foundation first. Generally, when something like this happens, it's a buy-in between two parties. One is Sporting Ethos, and the other is you, the mentor.
Yeah.
So they come with a proposal. You have to buy into something.
Yeah.
What was the buy-in for you?
I think the buy-in for me was the fact that they were focusing really hard on, I wouldn't say grassroots, but people who are and kids who are just about entering into the world of real competitive sport on a global stage, and how we can help them along in their journey to be their best. I felt it when I was 15, 16 years old, where it's almost like a chicken and egg situation. Like, you haven't quite made it, so you don't have the support to be able to make it, right? But without the support, it becomes very difficult to actually make it. So I felt like, in that sense, Sporting Ethos was trying to bridge that gap to a certain extent. So 15, 16, 17-year-olds who have the potential, have the talent and the work ethic, which is very important, as we all know, to be able to give them that fill up, saying that, okay, we are here to help you in this journey starting now, and not just when you're already there, been there, done that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest buy-in for me, other than the fact that the people who I interacted with from the foundation seemed very genuine and authentic in their kind of pursuit to really help athletes from India.
Is it also primarily a case of giving back? Giving back to a sport where, in a country, let's just say that the path to going where you are or where you want to be isn't always like a straight line. It's a start, it's a stop, it's an up, it's a down, and so on and so forth. But you're still there. So the satisfaction is immense because you're still there at the end of that line. So is it a case of giving back now?
100%. It's also, not just from a personal point of view of just trying to give back, but also I feel, through all those years of competing around the world, I would like to think that I've learned something along the way.
Yeah.
And I know that if I could speak to my 16, 17-year-old self and give them that, or give that wisdom that I've kind of garnered through the years, I would be a better player now or even earlier in my career. And I think there are some principles which kind of go across sport. It's not specific to squash, which is my game. So I think it was that kind of motivation to spread that knowledge as best I could. And Sporting Ethos gave me that kind of vibe that I could do that with the kids and with the people who will be a part of this program moving forward.
Since you brought up your 15-year-old self or your 16-year-old self, and we see this in so many podcasts nowadays. I'm not saying that I've taken it out of another podcast or something. But if you had to speak to your 15-year-old self right now, what would be that one thing you would say, keeping in mind that there is a naive little boy over there?
Yeah.
He's 15 years old. It's his own journey as well. What would you say right now to that person?
I mean, there's so many things I would say, but if I had to pick one, and I truly believe this in my core, is that when I was 15, we come from India, which unfortunately does not have the greatest lineage for squash players.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, when I was 15, we didn't have anyone in the top 50 in the world. Eventually, Ritvik Bhattacharya got to 38 in the world, by the time I was 18, 19 years old. And that was the highest we ever got to. And my kind of mission in life almost, or my the extent of my dreams, which I feel very sad to say, was that I wanted to make top 30 in the world. Right? That was because I was like, no one's ever done that. I want to be top 30 in the world. If I could change anything, I would like to go back to my 15-year-old self and tell him that, buddy, do everything you can to be world number one.
Really?
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is, and that outlook for me changed when I was about 26, 27. That's when I said that, okay, I'm going to do everything I can because I believe and I dream that I want to be world number one. And the reason why I say that is when you dream a dream, right? You do everything to achieve that dream. Now, if it is world number one, your kind of attention to detail and your work ethic and what you are kind of putting in is a lot different to when you're trying to be top 30 in the world.
How so?
Because
I'm guessing, top 30 is top 30 in the world as well.
yeah,
Now, the difference in those 29 places, how does the mindset mentality change in that sense?
because at top 30, everything I'm doing and the level that I'm playing, I'm comparing it to the guy who's 30 in the world. Whereas if I'm trying to be world number one, I'm always thinking that is there anyone else in this world who is A, working harder than me, or B, coming up with different like patterns of play or shots or whatever, which is better than me. So I'm comparing myself to the best of the best, at every given instant in time, right? And I feel like that makes a difference both in terms of training, right? The way you do the things you do, the amount you push yourself and all of that, but also, you know, in crunch situations in matches, the subconscious plays a big part. So if I am thinking of, saying that I want to be top 30 in the world and I'm like 1-all with the world number 9, I'm thinking subconsciously, not consciously. Consciously, I want to win, of course. But subconsciously, somewhere, it almost comes where it's like, oh, I'm like 1-all with the guy who's 9 in the world.
Yeah.
I've already kind of like,
Satisfaction's there already.
like there is a underlying level of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Whereas if I want to be world number 1 and I'm 1-all with the world number 9, I'm thinking like, no, this is not good enough. I need to get through this no matter what, because only then am I going to get to world number 1. And those kind of, flipping of matches kind of makes a big difference in the momentum of your career. So there were a lot of matches early on in my career where I did lose, 3-1 or even 3-2 against people who were like 9 in the world or 12 in the world. And again, it's impossible to objectively say that if my mindset to become world number 1 would have been the deciding factor in winning those matches or not.
Yeah.
But looking back, I do feel that would have helped my chances a little bit more, let's put it that way. And the probability of me converting those matches would have been a bit higher if I had that mindset when I was 15.
When you said that when you were 15, the first thing that went to my mind, I have a daughter who's 5, right? So you're saying in 10 years' time from there, you'd already put in your mind, okay, maybe not world number 1, but world number 30. Where did that seed of not really playing squash, but wanting to compete at the highest level, when did that sort of creep into you as a person? Were you aware that this is coming in? Was it a family member? Was it someone close to you that really pushed you in that direction? Because more often than not, we need someone to push us in that direction. And then, of course, if it's a natural fit, you just get in and, you're on there.
Look, I'm going to say something a little controversial here. I think there are certain things that people can push you with, and there are certain things which need to be very, very organic and intrinsic.
Yes.
I think the will to compete and the will to win, and in a weird way, I don't want to use the word hate, but the distaste of losing has to be intrinsic if you want to succeed at the highest level. That does not mean you don't be a good loser. You still have to kind of be respectful and everything, but you need to really dislike losing, because if you are okay with losing, then I feel it's on the subconscious. It becomes in some form, it becomes an excuse sometimes.
Sure.
Right. So in terms of me, and this is funny. Like I don't want to lose a board game to a 3-year-old. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I want to be all, magnanimous and all of that. But heart of heart, deep down, I don't want to lose a game of snakes and ladders to a 3-year-old. right? That is me, or a game of Uno, right? And I think that has come, and of course, I can only think back to where my memory serves me. But ever since I can remember, anything I played, whether it be cricket, badminton, snakes and ladders, Ludo, whatever, every time, anytime, I want to win, right? And that has always been like a non-negotiable. And I feel like you would be very very hard pressed to find people who have really achieved at the highest level,
Yeah.
with a different perspective on that. Now, just the almost like a rider to that is that you know you don't want to go in thinking that, oh, I don't want to lose.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because that puts an immense amount of pressure, because that takes your mind into thinking about consequences of an act. And the moment you think about consequences of an act, you kind of move away from, everyone keeps saying, staying in the moment. Right? So I think the way I think, I learned a lot from was one of these interviews from Kobe Bryant. He actually was asked, are you the type of person who does everything to win or does everything not to lose? And he said, I'm not in either, because if you really think about it, whether I win today or whether I lose, tomorrow morning I'm still going to go out there and do the same training that I'm doing. If my training changes whether I win or I lose, I'm doing a disservice to that training session. So I go in thinking that this is my chance and my opportunity to learn the most about myself and find ways to better myself. And the winning or losing is a byproduct, right? But of course, you're doing all of this. Why? Not to lose. You're doing all of this so that you can win more often.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone keeps saying about trust in the process, and don't think about the end result. Right. That is
These are nice travel companion lines.
Yeah, these are like the placeholders.
Yeah.
Right? But how? Like, how do you do this? Right? It's very easy to say,
Yeah.
trust in the process and don't think about
podcast lines.
right? You can't think about it, right? But like, this is the way, if you're constantly thinking about, what you need to do and how you need to get better. And I say this to a few of the juniors, you're almost fooling your mind to not have the space to think about consequence. So if, going back to the line that so many people, when you're young, an idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Yes.
Right? So you try and make the mind as busy as possible with the things that truly matter in the moment, so that your mind does not have enough time and space to think about things which are consequences of your actions in this moment. Right? And if you are able to do that, then you have a chance of actioning the trusting in the process, because it is very difficult to stay in the zone all the time.
Yeah.
Think in the moment all the time.
True.
To consciously do it all the time, you almost have to fool your mind.
It's taxing as well, right?
It is very very exhausting to constantly think, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to whatever. So it's almost like you're fooling it. You have to fool your mind. The mind was going to wander to a million different places, but if you have enough things going on in your mind which are pertaining to the now and here and now, then it does not have the space to think about, at least for the most part, to think about the other things that might pull you back in a lot of ways.
What do you do when you break away? Because it's natural to break away.
100%.
Right? You break away, but then how quickly you come back, I guess that tells me more about you than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Novak does, right? That's Novak Djokovic is probably the best example of this, and someone who's actually confessed to this. I think everyone has different things, right? For me personally, the best I have ever played is when I've had the most clarity in terms of what I want to do on that squash court to the minutest detail. And when I talk about minutest detail, I'm almost talking about, if my opponent plays a particular shot in a particular way, in a particular location on the court, what exactly am I going to do from that particular location?
Is there muscle memory, or is that something you prepped going into that particular game?
This is something you've prepped going into that particular thing, because muscle memory will make it instinctual to what you are very comfortable doing. So there are certain opponents, that's why they talk about matchups, right? Certain matchups work very well with you because your natural muscle memory is something that works well with regards to that person's style of play. But there are enough opponents whose kind of style of play does not align with what your natural muscle memory
Out of
is.
syllabus, basically.
Yeah. So you have to kind of go into the match prepping as to understand. And there are so many times where I have kind of stopped myself from doing something which I know I'm very good at, but I feel that that is also something that someone else is good at and is not exposing enough of what I want that person to be
This is
exposed to.
in game, you're saying.
Obviously, you prep before,
Yeah.
but in game, you're thinking about these things, right? And it's they say squash is chess at 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
This is what you're doing, right? This is, if you can outmaneuver and outthink people, right? The need to hit outrageous shots is reduced dramatically. And if your need to hit outrageous shots is reduced dramatically, that increases your chances of consistency dramatically.
True.
Because you are creating spaces on the court where you need to hit the simplest shots to win rallies. And in isolation, those simplest shots can be hit by pretty much anyone. But the art lies in not hitting that simple shot. The art lies in creating the situation to be able to give you the opportunity to hit that simplest shot to win the rally. And that is what I have always thought about going into a match, that how am I going to create situations which will make it as simple as possible for me to win the rally in eventuality, not understanding or not putting a time frame on winning that rally, because the moment you put a time frame,
Yeah.
you start rushing.
So it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4 winner.
No,
no,
no.
none of
It
that.
is a question of going into the process again, that okay, I'm going to continuously do this, right? The opponent could break down in 5 shots, or the opponent could break down in 50 shots. But the process of doing that and the cycle of doing that continues, whether it's within the point, within the game, or within the match. That does not change. That keeps going. It's like the wheel keeps turning, right? And you don't know exactly how long it is going to take you, or how much distance, could be another sport, is going to take you to reach that final destination.
Yes.
Right? But you will reach that final destination if those wheels keep turning in the way you want them to turn. And that is what I try to focus on in the minutest detail, which gives me the utmost clarity. And when I'm in that space, that is when I would say, for the most part, when they say you're in the zone,
Yes.
I'm in the zone. And it's it's weird, when I'm saying all of this to some people, it might sound that it is very exhausting.
Yes.
Because you're thinking about so many small details. But the weird part is when I'm in that space and when I'm thinking in so much detail, it is incredibly satisfying and stimulating to be able to do all of this in that kind of, in a lot of ways, chaotic environment.
Is it air-like?
Yeah.
It's just a seamless thing.
Exactly. And then to find the result of, even within a point, to find the result of actually achieving what you set out to achieve is, for me, the most satisfying part of playing sport, even more than the winning. That is the utmost high for me. And I feel like the winning is, again, like the icing on the cake and the byproduct of those highs.
Yes.
To do it consistently enough.
Hey, listen, this is music to my ears, man, because I've already retired in life. I'm playing paddle. So we were talking about this before the podcast as well. So I've never played racket sports all my life. I've been a football player.
Yeah.
So our game is very different. It's a team sport, and and football has changed, and we can have a conversation on that. But my progression was, first phase, ball aaya, keep hitting it, and whatever happens. Now, 6 months into the sport, I'm thinking, now go for the winner.
Yeah.
Now go for the winner. But it doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
Because I've never played racket sports. So to strategize
Yeah.
on the court, and with that speed of thought, I still fall behind. So possibly I have one good point out of 10
Yeah.
where it's worked out for me.
Yeah.
But like you said, that one point stays in my head.
Yeah. I mean, that's the high, right? And I think what you also mentioned is, and it's great that you're thinking on these lines, because you're actually thinking at a very basic level of how variation
Yes.
can alter the way someone responds to you, right? So in any way, or in any interaction, if you're always bombarding a person with exactly the same thing, that person just gets better and immune to dealing with that.
Yes.
Right? And the moment you change the variations of what you're bombarding the person with, the person has to adjust to those variations every single time.
Yeah.
And it is easier said than done. But the best players in the world in any sport, especially when it's to do with the response, right? They are able to create and manufacture those variations on a more consistent basis, which makes it so much harder for people to respond to them.
Yeah.
So a good anecdote, stuff like my mother, she watches a lot of tennis.
Okay.
But she's really never played sport, whatever, right? And when Roger Federer was, playing at his very best and whatever, every time, she'd say, these other players, they're playing so well, and I think this time they're going to beat Roger, and Federer's not going to have a chance, and this and that. And I was like, hold on to your horses. Let's see what happens. And let's say they play them, and he plays one of them in the semi-finals, right? And he wins like 3-love or whatever. She's like, why are they playing so badly, right? But the fact is that they are playing so-called so badly because they're having to adjust to everything that Roger is throwing at them in terms of variation and pace changes and all of that. They're not getting the same thing where they're getting the same rhythm every single time. And it's very difficult to do. There are some people who can do it between points, but the people who can do it within points are the ones who are really, really good. And some people have it kind of naturally, but this is one of the things that can be taught, right? This is something that you can practice and you can really teach someone to do it. So
it's a tough road, because initially when you'll start, you lose more. The ego will say, listen, there's a shot coming, go for it, man. But then you got to sort of hold the ego, tame the ego, and then eventually the process, you learn to live with it. Is that the sort of journey?
I think, look, you have to constantly kind of discover yourself. Everyone is a different type of player, right? Everyone has their own unique identity. Initially, I think the exploration is about what your identity truly is.
Yes.
Right? When you're able to understand yourself and your identity as clearly as possible, you know that this is what I'm very good at, right? And then the journey starts of how you can make your identity the best in the world at that. And so that is first. So you're building your skill base to basically make your identity so good that if anyone else plays you in that kind of form of game, cannot beat you. Right? That is the first piece of the puzzle. The second piece of the puzzle, which is the art that I was talking about, is about getting people to play you at your identity. That is the whole game, right? So take the top 10 players in the world in any sport. Chances are that every single one of them has a very unique identity of themselves as a player. And the chances are very high that in their identity of player, no one else can beat them at that, right? But why is the world number 1 better or higher ranked than the world number 10? A, obviously, is more consistent, all of that. But where does that consistency come from? The consistency comes from the fact that the world number 1 is able to make the world number 10 or even the world number 2 in this regard when they play the world number 1, play the game that the world number 1 wants to play.
Yes.
Versus what the world number 10 wants to play. Right? So, one of the kind of criticisms of Roger Federer sometimes is that when he used to play Rafael Nadal, it almost used to be that he wants to beat Rafa at what Rafa does. Right? So, of course, you don't put the ball on Rafa's forehand, 20 times out of 30, right? Because whatever. But Roger is like, no, I'm so good at it, I'm going to do it. Whereas when Rafa Nadal is playing Roger, you can see he's attacking Roger's backhand with his, forehand, which is going really high up on the single-handed backhand. So in that sense, I would say, this is my personal opinion, that Rafa actually strategically played Roger Federer better than Roger Federer played Rafa Nadal, right? And hence he had a better head-to-head against Roger Federer. It's not that Rafa Nadal is a better player than Roger Federer. I'm pretty sure that if Roger Federer could make Rafa play the way he wanted to play, which he did at some point, especially in indoor hard courts, he could hit through Rafa Nadal, right? But he didn't do it enough, right? So that is the difference, between the best players in the world. They are able to create a skill base in which their identity is the best in the world. They are so confident that no one else can beat them at that. And then they have the art and the ability of executing the art of making the other player play their style of game more often than not. And again, it is close to impossible against the best players in the world to make them play your style of game for the entire match. You're going to have very few occasions when that's going to happen. But it comes down to who is able to play or make the other person play the game they want to play for the majority of the match.
True.
And that is the art. And that is the understanding, and the recognition of that is very important for you to really succeed at the highest level.
You know, I have lots of young kids who keep messaging and all because we guys talk on camera, right? So they say, "How do you get into this?" And I'm sure life must be so nice and rosy and whatever, because you're talking sport for a living and you're hanging out with sportsmen, stadiums, and all. I said, "Listen, there are two phases. The first phase is of ridicule, where you will not be able to find yourself.
Yeah.
Your references is going to be someone on camera, and you're going to try aping that person."
Yeah.
And so everyone around you is going to ridicule you because you won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
The second phase is finding yourself,
Yeah.
is your personality.
Yeah.
And when you can bring your personality into the way you speak, talk sport, look at sport, that's when the game really begins.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that you say that in sport as well. Could you tell us something about squash? So generally, the layman's view of squash, at the conversation when you started, bang, bang, go fast, fit sport, and you're just running non-stop and you're smacking the ball.
Yeah.
Could you tell us something about squash that the average person doesn't know about it right now? Just beyond looking at it and
Yeah.
watching someone play a sport.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the physical aspect of it is, especially in today's day and age, it's almost a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I think everyone, worth his or her salt in the professional game is physically unbelievable. They're getting way too many balls back for anyone's liking, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think, look, it comes back to my earlier conversation about, creating the art or painting the art of outmaneuvering people. Squash is in a very confined space. You have two people, in layman terms, on the same side of the net.
Yes.
Right. You're constantly, maneuvering, in terms of your movement around people, and it's very, very difficult to find spaces on the court because, like I said, you're on the same side of the net, right? So imagine you're playing tennis or paddle or badminton, right? You know that on the other side there's only one other person, and you have the entire court
Yeah.
to kind of find space, right? Not saying it's easy, but the real estate available is a lot more
Yes.
than what it is on a squash court, right? So understanding that, and I mean, I've always looked at squash in this way, that there are three variables which I can use to create the space on the court. One is, you kind of alluded to it, is the pace of the hitting, right? So obviously there is different paces at which you can hit the ball, right? So you hit the ball at different paces to give different kind of stimulations to your opponent, right? So that's one, right? The second is, which is not really looked at even at the top level enough, I feel, is we have a really high front wall.
Yes.
Right. So height is a big variable which changes, the perspective of how the opponent is feeling your shot, so to say. So so when you combine the pace of the shot with the height of the shot, that brings another permutation and combination.
But I'd assume lower the shot, the tougher the shot to execute or to react, right?
Not necessary. So again, it comes back to understanding that, or accepting, I think accepting is a better word, that this particular shot is not the shot that is going to win you the point, right? It is about what am I doing to create that space eventually to win the point. So using the height on the front wall is that process of creating that space.
Okay.
Right? That is that. And then the last piece is, and this is a little bit technical, is the point of contact where you hit the ball. Right? So there is a range between which you can make connection with the ball. Right? And why point of contact is important is, it's like when you're crouching down for 100 meter, right? You're crouching down, you're on your toes and you're bursting out, right? Now just imagine that you're crouching down, this is your perfect position to burst out,
Yeah.
right? But now imagine that you were not sure that when that gun is going to go, and different people at different on the starting block, the 8 on the starting block, hear that gunshot at a different point in time. So one guy hears it exactly when he's on this best position,
Yeah.
and then the other extreme, the other guy hears it when he's on his heels.
Yeah.
Whose start is going to be better? the one who's at the perfect position.
Yes.
So the point of contact is basically trying to confuse the opponent and their rhythm of movement to make them get into a position which is least beneficial for them to push off.
So what would that be? That I mean,
where they are basically sinking into their heels.
yeah. Okay.
Right? But you can't keep doing it at the same time, because then they will adjust their movement to that kind of time frame. So that's why sometimes you got to take it earlier, sometimes you got to take it normally, sometimes you got to hold it a little bit more and take it deeper. So again, that is a variation in terms of their push off points, right? So these three kind of variables put together give you like a million different permutations and combinations. And this is what I was talking about, that you're constantly thinking about
Yeah.
how you do it and what you do it, and it's like
But
you're playing math
it's
in
a
your head.
natural fit. It's a
Yeah.
natural fit. Right? It comes normally.
Yeah.
To the average person who's listening right now,
That does not happen normally.
it would have gone up like
Exactly.
this.
But it's like you're playing math in your head in a weird way, consistently, and trying to find the best kind of equation to get you to the point that you want to get to. And the more you can think about it, and the quicker you can think about it, and the best you can execute that, quick thinking, the higher your chances of being very, very difficult to play.
Wonderful, yeah. For all of you who switched off, yeah, welcome back. But this is a nice conversation, man, because I'm actually learning something. Because I'll tell you, from the outside, when you're seeing squash, you never think about these things.
Yeah.
Right? Until you actually get into it and then you understand how into detail. I guess the lesson is that to excel at anything, you really sort of get into the detail
Yeah.
or whatever it is that you want to do.
100%. And that holds true for life in general. Anything you want to do.
Yeah.
You have to go as deep as possible before going broad. Right? You have to be very, very good at whatever little you do. Right? That will have more of an impact than if you are good at a broad number of things.
Yeah.
Even within a particular sport.
Don't read the headlines, get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with today's generation, like they want to do shorts and they want to just see, they get this update on, oh, this has happened, or for example, the prime minister has made this announcement. But what does that mean?
Yeah.
The announcement could be, and especially with headlines, there's so much of clickbait that headline could actually not be anything to do with what the actual story is.
True.
Right? So getting deep into anything and everything is extremely important, at least in my opinion.
I'm going to get into your career because what you said right now, nowadays, like my analysis is that young kids are only used to seeing the high moments. You're used to seeing a winner. You're used to seeing a goal. You're used to seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
The build up to a goal, the build up to a winner is very rarely seen. And so basically then when you're watching a game, they switch off as quickly as well because you're not seeing them that often. Career started in 2003, Saurav. We're talking in 2025. When I was talking to Rishabh yesterday, and he was telling me, the entire thing, and I had the chitta open in front of me as well. I said, listen, whatever you won, the rankings that you got, world number 10, you got Asian Games gold and whatever. But if you had to look back, would I be right in saying that longevity has been your biggest win? From 2003 to 25, 22 years and still going at it in a country, and I started the podcast as well like that. Longevity outside of cricket, you don't hear it too often. Would you agree that longevity has been one of your biggest, achievements, if I were to say?
So the way I would put it is that it's been my biggest achievement or win, whatever semantics you want to use, because it has, allowed me to do something that I love so much. So today I'm recovering from injury and I don't know if I can play at the highest level again, thanks to my hip, which has been subjected to some serious trauma over the years.
Yeah.
And I feel it. Like the
Morning when you wake up?
No, in the sense that I feel it internally, like emotionally, because the joy of hitting the ball, feeling it right, the joy of working through these permutations and combinations in a competitive environment. I can't substitute that for anything else in life. I'm sure or at least I hope I can do other things in life which will give me joy. But at least at this point in time, I generally do not believe that I will have anything else which will give me the same amount of satisfaction or that same high with which what I've done, sport with over the last 20 odd years. And I think that is, in that sense, the longevity is the biggest win for me because, I've had the greatest time doing what I've done. It's been extremely hard in a lot of ways. But looking back, the stimulation that I've got from it and, the happiness that I've got from doing what I've done, and that my body and mind has been able to keep up with that for the most part. I'm just very, very grateful that I've had that amount of time, and I would love to have a couple more years if I could, to kind of have closure in some ways. And obviously, with squash being in LA 28, if I could be there, that would be a nice kind of like signing off, swan song kind of moment. But sometimes you don't get everything in life.
Yeah, you reckon closure comes easy, especially when you're so used to
No.
achieving and playing in a certain way.
Yeah.
More often than not, closure is just like it just comes.
See, I think different people are different in that sense. Like someone like an Abhinav Bindra, for example, who I look up to very highly.
Yeah.
He shot his last shot in 2016, and he doesn't miss it.
Doesn't.
He doesn't miss it. He's like, I gave everything I gave for the time that I gave it, and I'm so happy I don't need to do it again. Right? It's not that he doesn't love the sport. Of course, he loves shooting, but he's very happy. And in all my conversations with him, I think he's got full closure on everything. But some people, and I think myself included, like I just love the sport so much, and I wish I could do it all my life. I know I can't. I think that acceptance is there, but I think it comes slowly, and I hope that it will come slowly. I would be dishonest if I said that I have full closure right now. There is, something scratching my back saying that, you still have a little bit left. Just in my core, I feel that. But whether my body and my mind and my life in general allows me to do that is a different thing. But I think each to their own. But of course, the way closure comes also is you need to have different things in life that you want to do and that excite you. And in that sense, I feel I do have a few things which do. So that's kind of keeping me sane in a lot of ways, and helping me move forward in life, which is very important. So yes, I would say, being able to play for that long, in terms of giving back to myself and not about anything else, the joy and the satisfaction is what I would be grateful for, and that is definitely one of my wins, not in terms of my career, but in terms of life.
If the body and mind have sort of gone a little off pace, if that's the right way to say it, how have you adjusted your game? Have you been able to adjust your game? Has there been a period of saying, no, body and mind cannot be off pace, so the ego takes over that?
Yeah.
I will still continue playing the way I used to be,
Yeah.
as prime Saurav Ghosal. And for that change, were you able to make that change? Was it a seamless change? Or are you still, it's like a constant evolving situation whenever you're on the court?
I think the acceptance has been through the years. In terms of the change, I think it's a constant evolution. I think the game changes in general, so you have to evolve with it. But funnily enough, I actually believe that, as the years have gone by, I've actually become better as a player. I've become smarter, understood, how to kind of use the skills that I have squash wise, to make life easier for me. If, for example, I was winning matches purely on physicality and speed in my early 20s, now I know that if I want to go deep in events, that is not the way I'm going to get there. Right. So you actually, zone in a lot more on, accuracy and understanding how you need to play players strategically, preparing better. So you go into a lot more of the minuter details in that sense, rather than just going out and saying, okay, I'm just going to beast you out and win and whatever, right? Because you end up realizing that, it's one match, but that one match leads into a tournament, and that one tournament leads into an entire season.
Yes.
So you want to try and be as clinical as possible through a match and then a tournament, so that you can be right up there by the end of the season, and then have some left in the bank to be able to do it season after season. And I think that's a realization that has, I mean, if I look back, maybe dawned through the mid 20s. And because of that, I feel like as a player, I probably have been at my best in my mid 30s, which is not the norm, so to say. And one of the reasons why there is that scratching on my back even now is because I actually feel like I'm a better player today than what I was even 5 years back. If that was not the case, then there would be closure. Because the moment I feel like that I'm not good enough in terms of um, whether holding up physically or squash wise in today's day and age, then you know that okay, now it's time. There's no point hanging about and just making up the numbers. I think I've done it for long enough to not want to do that. At least I'm very clear in my head. So unless and until I know that I'm in there with a chance to be the best in the world, I'm going to try everything I can to be there. But the moment that switches off, it's done.
So tell us, I mean, I'm guessing a large part of you performing now is now recovery
Yeah.
of you going out and playing what you're playing. I call this the recovery boom era because हर कोई कुछ निकाल रहा है with regards
Yeah,
to
yeah,
recovery. What with boom also comes is that you have a lot of bogus products
Yeah.
out there. So what are the kind of things you used as far as recovery, and eventually what are the basics? Because I remember I was talking to Sunil. Sunil is a friend, Chetri, and we were having a conversation. I said, and he's still fit at 38 playing
Yeah.
football, right? And I told him, भाई ये कौन सा इंजन लगाया है आपने? अभी चले हुए हो क्या हो रहा है? And he said, listen Arjun, a lot of people talk about this and that. I need to get my 9 hours of sleep. It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So for you, are there any recovery myths you'd like to bust, please? That stop wearing this, stop putting yourself in that sunshine and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What works for you in the most simplest and basic of ways?
So what I would say is that like all the recovery gadgets, so to say, right?
Yeah.
Let's just categorize it in that sense. If you were to make a cake, right, and I love sweet, so let's make a cake, right? These are icings on the cake, right? But without the cake being built or made or baked, the icings don't work.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to have cake just for the icing, right? So what Sunil has actually mentioned in terms of sleep, that's one of the major components of baking the cake, right? So the sleep is when your body. That's the only time in the day when your body is totally shut down and your mind is totally shut down to as shut down as it could possibly be, and that's when the body can recover the best it can, right? So sleep is very important. Food is important, right? So like I said, I have a big sweet tooth, but like there are times in the season where I literally have zero sugar.
Like how long?
Zero.
How long do you go for that?
So like before Asian Games in 23, it was like 2 months, zero.
Zero. Not bad.
Like zero. And when I was young, I used to think, not can't make such a big difference.
Yeah.
But like as I've grown older, like the times when I'm actually not having any sugar, I can feel it.
How what are you feeling?
Like in terms of when I wake up in the morning, right? I can feel that, like I've done the same sessions, but I can feel that my joints are not as sore. In terms of energy going into the next day after 2-3 days of hard work, it's a lot better. And just generally, like you're just up for it a lot more. Right? So sugar is one component of nutrition. There's other stuff where you have to get it right. And this is tailored to an individual. So what I am doing is going to be different, or what I'm eating in this particular sense is going to be different to what someone else is. So when I'm working with my nutritionist, we are doing like trial and error to figure out that, okay, let's say I have this in the morning. Let's say I have a match at 4 o'clock in the evening. I have this in the morning, something at 12 and something at 2. Is this working, or should I change this around? Now we have a set play that, okay, this is what works for me, right? So now I have it. But suppose you do the same thing, it could be different for you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to find your own self in that sense as well, right? Hydrating yourself is very, very kind of important, and people underestimate it. And when I say hydrating, it's not just purely just drinking water. It's about getting the right kind of salts in um, after hard matches and hard training. Again, it's not necessary that you have to have protein shakes only.
Yeah.
Right. It could also be that your obviously protein shakes are chemically induced.
Yes.
Right. You could also, if you have access to, let's say, yogurt, right? Sometimes you don't. Like we have protein shakes because let's say you're in a tournament venue, you can't carry yogurt, it'll get bad, right? So then you have to substitute for it. But as far as possible, if you can do natural food products which give you the things that you need, then that's the best way. There's no doubt about it, right? So food is a very important part, and the hydration of it is a very important part. And then I would say the last piece, which again, like as I've gone through the years, I've consciously tried to do, is in today's day and age, life is very fast, right? You're constantly on your phone, you're looking at social media, you're on WhatsApp. There are so many things, being bombarded at you, doing interviews or, speaking to like so many different people, doing stuff at home. You hardly have any time in the day where you are, with yourself, right? So again, before big events, and I understand that this cannot be done every day of your life because that's just how life is. But before big events, I consciously make an effort to slow down life as much as possible.
Okay.
Right? And that means, again, some people have gone completely off social media. I haven't done that, but I reduce my time on the phone.
How do you do that? Do you put timers or?
No timers. I'm not so like, even for things like visualization.
Yes.
This is a funny one. So I work with my psychologist and I tell her that, she'll tell me, you should do like 10 minutes of visualization at night and all. I'm like, Gayatri, this 10 minutes timer and all doesn't work for me. The thing that actually works the best for me, and when I visualize the best, is when I'm driving. It is bizarre, right? But we basically figured out that it works best for me is because when I'm driving, the only thing I'm thinking of is the road, right? So my mind is focused on just the road. So it's got nothing else for my mind to think about. So at that point in time, I'm able to visualize the best. Whereas even if I put a timer and I close my mind, right? Okay, I'm saying I'm visualizing, but at the same time, there are different things going through my head.
Plus, you're making an effort to do it, right?
Yeah. So different things going through my head.
Yeah.
So like when I'm driving is the best visualization. So I'm never the one who's done like meditation.
The car is fine.
Car is fine. Car is fine. Car is fine. So I'm never the one to put these timers, but again, it could work for some people, right? But it just doesn't work for me, right? So the way I do it is like I consciously make an effort to, like not take out my phone unless it rings, right? Or if there is someone who's supposed to be messaging me, which is important, like that. So normally my screen time is somewhere between 3 to 4.5 hours in total during a day.
Yes.
That's what my phone tells me.
Yeah.
But during those 2 or 3 weeks before, I basically cut it down to somewhere between 1.5 to 2. And this happens as a conscious way, but not in terms of an objective like timer way. But I consciously do it through the day that I'm looking at it like 1.5, 2 hours in the day, right? And then like if I have to do things during the day with regards to the house or personal things or whatever, I try and space it out as much as possible so I'm not rushing from one place to another, right? And I feel like that in terms of just my being in general, right, helps me in a weird way recover from everything better, right? Maybe it's a placebo thing, I don't know, but at the end of the day, you want to feel better.
Yes.
And this definitely makes me feel better in conjunction with all the other stuff like sleep, food, hydration, and all of that. And this makes the cake, right? This makes the cake, and then you have to use all your other things. Your fitness trackers, your recovery boots, your ice baths, and everything, right? But if you don't have the core cake baked, then all these things are not going to suddenly like elevate you and get you recovering like with a magic wand.
So for all the gym boys, you give me protein, bro, protein, and my ice bath and my sunlight, bro. Doesn't work like that. Right?
No. You have to. Your lifestyle is very important, right? And again, I keep telling a lot of the juniors, being a professional and being a good professional,
Yes,
is not actually about completely about how good a player you are. It's also about how you can manage your life better than everyone else.
True.
There are enough examples of players in enough sports who are maybe better players and more talented players and who also work hard, right? But who are not better than someone else. Is because they cannot manage their life as best as someone else.
Yeah.
So I think there was this quote by Wesley Snyder in football who basically said that, if I did in terms of my lifestyle what a Lionel Messi has done or a Cristiano Ronaldo has done, I would have been at his level or their level. But I didn't want to do it. Right? So it's not to say that he wasn't as talented, but that's basically what he's saying. That I believe that I'm as talented as these two guys.
Yeah.
But I could not reach the same heights because I could not manage my lifestyle as well as they did. Right? And that is a very, very important part of being a top level sports person.
Fair. Just on this topic of recovery, this is the last one. What's the most bizarre recovery thing you've done? And you've seen that it's not worked, man. I mean, chalo, theek hai, but try kar raha hu. So I'm trying it. Could be early stages, could be peak stages, could be whenever.
Yeah. Trying to think. Because you always like to think that everything you've done has worked to some quotient at least. So I think there was a time where I'm still wearing a watch right now. But there was a time where I used to sleep with the watch. Right?
So they could track your patterns.
Track my sleep and track my patterns and all of that. And I felt that it was not showing me accurate enough because there were days when I was waking up like really groggy and all, and then the watch is telling me, "Oh, you've had the best night's sleep," and I'm like, "Dude, like how? This is not possible, right?" And what I felt was I was just getting very, very, very caught up in the data
Yes.
of it, and that was influencing the way I went about my day, right? So I just stopped sleeping with the watch. Right? I was like, no, this is not doing it. When I'm training, I use it so that I can see, like my heart rate, because that's a good determinant of how much I'm pushing and if I'm able to push more efficiently or not. So in that sense, it still helps me. But in terms of the sleep parameters on that, I wasn't doing it. I do use the ring sometimes because I feel it's more accurate. But again, I only look at a couple of metrics on that and not everything, because again, I feel like in today's day and age, accumulating data is the easiest part. It's about what data you use and how you interpret it, which is the key, right? And I just felt that if there was so much data being bombarded to me, like it was almost counterproductive. Whereas if I had very basic kind of understandings of what I really wanted to know, I think that was more applicable to what I felt was beneficial for me.
Is it the same with feedback? Because in our line of work as well, generally what they say, because our line of work is so subjective, right?
Yeah.
So 5 people can say the same thing,
Yeah.
but you might only like one guy and how that one guy is presenting that. So they keep on saying that don't ask for too much feedback.
Yeah.
Because it will crowd your mind and it'll just screw
Yeah.
up your thought process.
Yeah.
So find that one person and just keep going back to that one person. Is that something you've also done throughout your life, that you've just stuck to a few people?
Yeah.
Because the trajectory of a young kid is kaisa hua, kaisa hua. Starting is like that only. You're going to everyone, sir, kaisa laga and all that.
Yeah.
But then eventually you sort of get a little more solid and you know exactly who to go to.
Yeah.
And what data points to keep and what to just sort of just let go.
I think it's an interesting question. Again, I think there are two sorts of people in this world. You can climb Mount Everest a million ways, right? There are people in this world who want to know and understand how those million ways work, right? And take elements of those million ways and chart their own path, right? And it's been successful for a few, right? But I am of the firm belief that there are a million ways, but if you want to get there in the best and most efficient possible way, you need to believe in that one way, which is again kind of juxtaposing a little bit on that identity bit, right? To be able to understand your identity, you need to be able to believe in that one way to get there.
Yeah.
Right? So throughout my career, through my professional career, I basically worked with two coaches consistently. First, when I was 18, I went to England and I worked with this person called Malcolm Wilstrop. passed away now, but if I hadn't gone to him, I would not be the professional player I am today, for sure not. Right? And then later on, whilst I was still working with Malcolm, I went to another person called David Palmer, who's a former world number one and world champion. And he basically was like, it's like I'm stacking what Malcolm was doing with me with what David is telling me. But it was the same kind of identity, so to say, right? And that's why I feel I am so secure with who I am as a player.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if I had gone to these two people and gone to X, Y, Z, then it becomes very transitional.
Yes.
In terms of what you are executing best at that point in time. So it's not to say that, okay, my, let's say my identity is A today, right? It's not to say that I can't do certain elements of identity B really well as well.
Yeah.
Right. But if I'm doing elements of B and elements of C and elements of D, it's just the way it is that, some weeks you do certain things well and certain things not so well, and it kind of goes around in cycles, right? But if I'm doing B really well in this week and C really well in another week and D really well in another month, right? Then the establishment and acceptance and understanding of that core identity gets very clouded. And it's very difficult for you internally to understand that what am I very, very good at, right? So, but now that I'm so secure, I know that, these are the elements that I'm very good at. And whether it is week 1 or week 52, I know that overall, as an entire package, I will be able to produce that identity as best I can, and it will be good enough to beat anyone in the world. And I feel like if I had done the other way around, I wouldn't have been in this position today. So that is the way I have looked at it. But there are examples of people, both in the squash world and in sport in general, who have done it the other way as well. And I don't think it's right for me to sit here and say that this is right or this is wrong. I feel it is for people to kind of experiment a little and understand it. But I would think that you would get the most joy, and this is in life in general, when you understand yourself the very most, and to the most basic kind of component that you
That's
can.
evolution.
Yeah.
Takes time.
Yeah.
To get there.
Yeah.
So would I be right in saying that when you were shifting to David,
Yeah.
you made a conscious decision to find out his way of looking at things, and then you joined hands?
100%. I mean, he played very differently to the way I play. Right? When he was playing, I've played him actually on the tour as well. So my first question to him was, David, I've been with Malcolm for like 13, 14 years, right? And we've played the game in a particular way. It's fair to say that the way you played and the patterns of play that you did are very different to the way Malcolm, teaches people to play, right? The philosophy is slightly different. So are we saying that we're going to tear me apart and put me back together?
Yeah.
Because, I went to him in 2018. So I'm like 32 at this point, right? So I'm like, 32, David. I don't have that many years. I didn't even know at that time that I was going to be playing till I was 35, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I might have like 2-3 years. So do we have time to like tear me apart and put me back together? And fair play to him. He was like, look, I was top 20 in the world at that time. And he said, look, you're top 20 in the world. There's a reason why you're top 20 in the world.
Yeah.
Because you're bloody good at what you do, right? So it would be foolhardy of me to tear you apart here. The idea here is to just stack on top of what you already have. So how can we, with the patterns of play that you have, how can we add certain elements which will make it even more effective in different situations? So a very basic concept. So let's say I'm playing a particular pattern, right? So he was like, this particular pattern, I think if you can do this at a higher pace, it will make it even harder for someone to deal with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not changing the pattern. We are not changing the philosophy of how you're constructing the point. We are just changing the pace at which you're constructing that, right? So it is not going to confuse your muscle memory because you've done this all your life. We are just trying to make it a little bit quicker, right? And how can we make that quicker? That is what we're going to practice in the patterns, right? So this is one piece. Obviously, there are other things that we looked at, but I think that's what, like when I had that conversation with him, I was like, okay, I think this makes sense, right? Like this is what is going to take me. So my goal basically going to him was like, I want to get to top 10 in the world. Like I was top 20 for a while and I wasn't being able to make that breakthrough. I was like 13, 14 in the world, but I wasn't getting through. So like, what can I do to get top 10 in the world? And consistently, play people in the top 10 and go into matches thinking that if I am able to produce at my very best today, it does not matter what the other person is doing, I can win. Right? That was the whole mission to go to David. And I felt like after the conversation, I felt like, yeah, I think this is the way we can do it, because obviously I believe that I'm very good at this, and I know that players don't want to play me at this. I know that when they're playing me, they don't want to play me at this. Now, if I'm able to elevate this in certain ways by adding different variables and elements, then it's going to make them harder to not be able to play me at this, right? And that was the whole kind of process that we went through. And again, it took time. It didn't happen like overnight or even over the course of one summer. I would say it probably took a year and a half before I was really kind of comfortable and confident, and it came naturally to me to use the different elements at different points in time or at opportune points in time. I think that's the correct word to use. So I think that's what we did when I went to David.
I mean, for any athlete to go to another level, you need to have the right kind of people with you. I think that's the overarching thing that you look at. And that is probably one of this Athlete First Foundation, that is one of their biggest goals.
Correct.
To make you a champion for life and so on. Given the experience that you had in your field, and you faced a lot of setbacks, you faced a lot of whatever, I mean, it's part and parcel of the game. Why do you suppose when we're nurturing athletes into at high performance level, where suddenly the detailing plays a big part, why has it been a bit of a bottleneck for us from a India point of view? Has it been like that always? Is it becoming better? Are enough steps being done so that now we're regularly creating another Saurav Ghosal, or are we still a little far away from it?
I think it boils down to that support group that you're talking about. I think for the majority of it, I think there are a few exceptions to this, so I don't want to generalize it. But for the majority of it, I would say that the level of exposure and expertise for that support group is not high enough yet for that level of detailing. And that boils down to the fact that we do not have lineage traditionally in at the highest level in a lot of the sports, right? So how does that knowledge seep through? Either someone has played the sport at the highest level, or they have trained someone who has played the sport at the highest level. Right? Now, coming back to me saying that when I was growing up, there was no one even in the top 50 in the world. So obviously, no Indian has made top 50 in the world even. So forget about top 10. And no Indian coach has produced a player, whether it be from outside also, who has made this. So that exposure has not happened, right? And the subtleties involved in the detailing to produce at the highest level is quite complex, right? And unless you're in that environment dealing with players, or whether it be as from a coach player point of view or as a player to player playing point of view, it is very difficult to kind of relay that to someone. So Egypt, for example, is a powerhouse in squash today, right? There are a multitude of reasons as to why they're very good. They have
given the disarray the entire country is.
Exactly, whatever, right? But one of the reasons is that they have so many coaches who have worked at different points in time with some of the best players in the world, right? That young people who are training with these people are getting that knowledge, right? So if there's a coach who has coached the world number 3, for example, who's from Egypt, right? When she was 12 or 13 years old, right? He has given her something which has helped her form a base, which has made her world number 3 today, right? He is giving that same knowledge to 500 other kids, right? But today now, when we compare that to India, we are saying that a particular coach giving knowledge to a 12, 13-year-old at the very most has produced a junior national champion, right? Now the junior national champion, of course, is the best in India in that age group. But what has that boy or girl done on the world stage? Right? Not done anything yet, right? So that level of knowledge is not as high, right? So why is it that I had to go to a Malcolm Wilstrop? Right? Of course, I would love to stay in India. it's home. Things are so much easier. Why, right? Why do I have to, travel to Cornell University in Ithaca, pretty much in the middle of nowhere to train with David Palmer, right? I mean, I could easily say that, okay, I've played on the tour for long enough. I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to be in India, train in India.
You've done world number 10 by then.
Yeah, done world number whatever. So I don't need to go, right? But why am I going? Because every time I go, like David and me are like figuring out, okay, this is what someone is doing. What is the nuance that we can look at which will cause problems. I cannot have this conversation or that level of conversation with the coaches in India today, right? And because of that, there is a bottleneck. Right? So if we are not able to bridge that gap, then that bottleneck will always exist. And I'm a firm believer that it's not just about going to let's say a coach goes to David Palmer for 2 weeks, sees what he's doing, and comes back and says, okay, I've learned everything.
It doesn't work
No,
like that, yeah.
it's like me saying I go to David Palmer for 2 weeks and I learned everything.
Yeah.
Every time I go, we're thinking of different other things, right? So someone has to work with someone on a continuous basis over 1 to 2 years, and that's why I feel like almost like for heads of departments, I feel like we might, again, there are exceptions. Let's say like a Purela Gopichand or Prakash sir in badminton, they've played at the highest level, so they know what needs to be done, right? But in our sport, for example, we need to get like someone who of a stature of a David Palmer or a James Willstrop or a Gregory Gaultier. These are some of the best coaches in the world, right? Who are in India, right? Coaching consistently on a daily basis, and the Indian coaches are coaching with them and understanding, what are they talking about? Why are they saying this? That constant learning has to happen over the course of 1-2 years before we can even attempt to think that our Indian coaches will be able to, relay that sort of information or that level of detail of information to the next generation.
I'm not surprised this kind of mentoring hasn't happened. I'm sure they would have come, or top level coaches would have come for like a week or 2 weeks for a camp or something or the other, but never has someone come for that period of 2 years, 3 years, where you're imparting your style of how.
And I think also, in India, I mean, I feel sad to say this, that there is a very closed mindset about sharing of knowledge, right? So let's say, someone comes and he's here, right? One Indian coach is coaching with him. Now, if some other people want to come, people are like, no, this is only our center, only this person can coach. So I'll give you a small example, along with David Campion, who's one of the best coaches in the world, he's former English national coach. Both of us have created like a document which kind of details, like how you want to play the game and, the basic tenets of playing the game and what is important in terms of recognition, at least at a young age, for you to work towards becoming a top level player. And this is an anecdote, and I gave it to a couple of the coaches who I'm interact quite a bit with and who help out in some of the centers that I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And one of the first questions was, "Sir, you've given me this, but how do we make sure that no one else gets it?" And I'm like, "What difference does it make?" Yeah. It's like, "Nay, if other people get it, they also know." I said, "I want it. This is open source.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone should know.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know." And I was trying to explain to them, like, look, if everyone knows this, the number of players of quality will be that much higher. Yeah. So I was trying to tail it back and say that, if the number of players of high quality are that much higher, you all will get more players to train who are of better quality, right? That is how you all will also grow, right? So, but people feel like, no, we have to hold on to this and no one can do anything with this. Yeah. And I feel this, extends to not just like the technical skill acquisition piece, but also, sports science and all of that. Like people are like, oh, like I have this and I've done this research and I don't want to give it to anyone else. Whereas, you look at like England sport, every sport everywhere knows exactly what some other sport has done some research, they could apply it to their own sport. This does not happen here. So like people like maybe in hockey, they've done something which is very beneficial. I'm pretty sure the people in football don't know about it. When it's lying inside our own boundaries.
Yeah.
So why not?
Fair point.
Like that sharing of knowledge is very important.
You touched upon sports science because we're talking about, I won't say generating. Generating sounds very factory-like, but nurturing athletes in the future.
Yeah.
and technology and science is going to be a prerequisite.
Yeah.
You better get on that trail, otherwise आप पीछे बैठ रहे हो.
Yeah.
And I feel now going forward, your access to technology, your access to science will give you that 1%,
Yeah.
that differentiator. In that sense, where are we right now? In acceptance and then implementation as well.
So I think we're a lot further down the road than even 10 years back.
Yeah.
We should be proud of that fact. I think there are quite a few private players who have done some very, very good work. And we are definitely getting somewhere. I think we are still behind a little bit on the human capital side of interpreting that information that we generate through these mechanisms.
Surprising, right? Sort of in a country that sort of champions science, a country that champions everything to do with science, literature,
Yeah.
and the dedication needed to get into these forms.
Yeah.
Is so surprising.
So I actually don't find it surprising. I'll tell you why. So the ability to interpret this information comes from the skill to merge. Let's take data analytics,
Yeah.
right? We have possibly the best data analysts in the world,
Yes.
right? But you have to merge that skill of data analytics with the skill of understanding a game or a sport.
Yeah.
That is what it is, right? So I went to like Loughborough University, which is one of the, if not the best, one of the topmost sporting universities in the world,
Yeah.
right? And I went to their biomechanics lab, and I met with their head of biomechanics, great guy, right? And he was showing me this computer modeling that he has done, which basically showed me that when an athlete came in, it was a track and field athlete, showed me that when the person came in, they use the motion capture cameras to understand what he was doing, blah, blah. It was a para athlete, what he was doing, and he was jumping this much, this distance. And he computer modeled it based on that person's height, weight, and parameters and whatever. And starting with the minutest detail of stride length in the run up, to the speed of the run up, to the angle of the hands in the run up, and all of this, to give that if you could optimize every single point of that entire process, that this is the best you would jump, right? And that jump would give you a medal, not a medal, a gold medal, if historical data of Tokyo Olympics was used for Paris 2024. And he did it to, as far as I remember, to the second decimal point of the distance. This person jumped in Tokyo to the second decimal point based on the computer modeling. Now, this level of detail and this level of human capital, we do not have in India as of today. And the reason why he's able to do it is because A, obviously, he has a very strong grounding in the science part of it and the biomechanics and all of that. But he also has he was a former badminton player for England in the juniors. He has a very, very strong grounding of the understanding of sport, right? So these two put together is what makes that interpretation of data to that level possible. So right now, a lot of the sport scientists that we have are coming from pure science background, right? And not the sport background.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who are involved in this who are part of the sport background are more on the admin side of it, right? We need to have people who can merge both together, right? And it can be done, right? And we have to encourage that. So I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. We have come a long way, definitely come a long way. But the next step or the next jump is to be able to get to that level of human capital where we can really, really make a profound difference in an athlete's performance in any sport.
Is there a buy-in from the athlete to something alien? Because at the end of the day, it's alien. If you
100%.
come from tier 3 and below, and most athletes come from there, nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. But that's the general population of people going and playing top level sport are coming from there. And so your reference points are very limited in terms of that level of technology and so on. And then suddenly someone comes in and says, aha, do this, do that, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Is the buy-in there? Are they hesitant?
I think they will be hesitant, and I think the deciding factor here is their core skill acquisition coach. The coach is the one who has to have an open mind to be able to influence that athlete's perspective, because, and this is more pertinent, I think, to people coming from tier 3 cities. I think the coach is like their Bhagwan,
Hmm.
right? So whatever the person says, they are going to do.
Yes.
Right. So the coaches in this sense have to be given the right exposure. And then again, see, look, the whole thing is an ecosystem, right? Moment the coaches see and understand from the top coaches in the world what is happening, they are going to like buy into that, right? So coming back to my squash example, if David Palmer is in India and he is doing things a certain way, the Indian coaches are more likely to listen to him than if an Indian coach tells them that, "Oh, you should do this." They were like, "What do you know?"
What do you know? Yeah.
Right? But if David Palmer is telling them and saying, they'll be like, he's been world number one, world champion, or, he's coached world number one and, top 10 in the world people as well. It must be talking some sense. So, blindfolded, they'll be like, let's listen to him.
Which is also not great.
Which is not great,
Yeah.
right? But at least, like they understand that, okay, this is what is happening, as like a benchmark at the world level.
Yeah.
So we should at least try and see if this can help us. Right? So it opens the door. It doesn't convince them completely, but it opens the door. And once that door is opened, I feel anyone with the right intent will embrace it.
This is because you spoke about it right now. It's something called Life After Sport, as far as the Athlete First Foundation is concerned, where every athlete has two careers. And through this foundation's work in vocational training, life skills, how athletes can prepare for second innings. Could you give us, not naming any athletes, but peers, people from other sports as well, that when you go through that phase of one career coming to an end, what are the kind of insecurities, if I may say, that a champion who's been looked at as a champion all his life, so wherever he's gone, oh, champion,
Yeah.
and suddenly, but gone.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the sort of required skills to move on in that next phase. Have you seen that around you in your
Yeah.
ecosystem?
Of course. I mean, I think, I don't, like you said, I don't need to take names. I think there are names out in the public domain as well. I think, it comes back to what we're discussing about closure as well. When you don't have this alternate skill set
Yes.
to move into something else, then that closure is almost impossible to have as well. As athletes, we have always lived life with a purpose, right? And moment the purpose is taken away from you, it is imperative that you're going to be lost in life. And there is no chance that you're going to, be okay just sitting on a beach and, chilling for like the rest of your life. It's just not going to happen. That's just not in our DNA, right? Anyone worth his or her salt who has done something extraordinary needs a purpose in life, in whatever way, right? And I think it's very important to, whilst you are playing and competing and you have that single-minded focus of being the best you can be, it's very important to kind of equip yourselves with some basic skills of communication, right? There are so many athletes who just aren't able to communicate, right? And it's very difficult. And to give you an added fillip, even during your playing career, right, if you want to really monetize your commercial ability,
Yes.
you need to be able to communicate, right? You cannot be a personal brand if you cannot communicate.
But that's your agent, right? That the agent puts that seed into your thought.
100%,
So, yeah.
right? So, but even for your personal gain in the short term, because there are a lot of athletes who think very short term, they do not even think like 5 years down the line, right? So, even in the short term, this is a huge benefit to you. Get your communication right? Make an effort, right? Building relationships is very, very important, right? And don't build relationships for the only reason of leveraging it when you need it, right? Build relationships, authentically, because you feel like it's a two-way street of adding value to each other, right? You genuinely want to pick up the phone and speak to that person,
Yeah.
right? Just from without getting anything in return, right? It's fine, but just as a qualitative like conversation, right? Build that relationship.
Sort of lastly, as far as this foundation is concerned, we spoke about what the athlete needs and what you wish to do with it. What would your message be to the young athlete that is listening or watching this podcast right now? That if you do come into this foundation, what will you be getting in terms of you, the athlete, elevating it? And I'm not asking you to go into detail or
Yeah,
something, but just basic stuff. What will you be getting in terms of you, the athlete, elevating your game to another level?
So I would say first, before you come into this foundation, the first thing that I would say to anyone, whether you're part of the foundation or not, is just dream big. Like dream as big as you possibly can. Don't worry about whether people think it's foolish or not. Just dream big, right? Hopefully, if you're part of this family, I think what you would get is that, or you can expect to get, is the the support and advice from someone like me and a few others who have kind of lived the journey that you are about to embark on, and to give you, sometimes, nonsense things which might not make much sense at this point in time, but it will actually kind of bear fruit maybe a few years down the line. But overall, just to kind of give you an understanding of what you're going to embark on, and help you understand how to navigate through this journey in the most efficient way possible based on our experiences, so that you achieve your goals quicker than what we did, right? And take it even further, and on the sports science side of it, to give you as much support as possible, to kind of give that extra 1-2%,
Yeah.
which is important at the very top level, which make the difference between winning and losing, and being the best in the world. So I think those would be the three main tenets that I would look at if I was in the position of a young athlete coming into the Athlete First Foundation.
Wonderful, man. No podcast is complete nowadays without a rapid fire. This is Rishabh using his marketing brain. Sorry, just going to end the podcast with these couple of
Sure.
rapid fire type questions. Since you travel, I feel like when I talk to a lot of sportsmen, I feel your greatest education in life is that you travel the world
100%.
and you meet people from different cultures.
Yeah.
And the fact that you got so many people coming at you guys, that your reading of a human being is 10 times faster than possibly I could or someone else could, just purely because har din up,
Yeah.
you're used to it. You're
Yeah.
thick-skinned that way.
Yeah.
Just this is on travel.
Okay.
Travel light or travel heavy. And sans the squash gear and everything, that's a prerequisite. But travel light, travel heavy.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle, to be honest.
So 4 suitcases.
No. One. That way I have one suitcase.
One suitcase?
I'll do it if I'm not taking. So it's either one suitcase and a squash bag.
Yeah.
But if no squash bag, it's one suitcase for sure.
Oh.
For sure. If that is your benchmark of light, then yeah, one suitcase is light. 100%. I've never traveled anywhere with 2 suitcases.
Oh, really?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Even for weddings, nothing. One suitcase.
It's liberating, man.
Yeah.
You just walk into that airport and no check-in. Just going in straight up.
One suitcase.
One suitcase.
Yeah.
Huh? I went to Thailand recently. We're a family of 4. 3 girls, my wife, and me,
Yeah.
for 3 days with 4.5 suitcases.
Wow.
Yeah. And Papa was the coolie. Yes. So I get that.
Yeah.
Favorite travel story that you like to share with us? Favorite bizarre, whatever you want to say. On, off the court, whatever.
So I don't know whether this is a story or not, but like you said, I've been to a lot of places, and I have this one favorite ice cream store in the world,
Okay.
right? And it's called Salt and Straw, and it's originated from this place called Portland in Oregon, in America. And the people who I was staying with, they said that you have to check this store out, and it's an ice cream store and whatever. And they were really gung ho about it. And I was like, I'm here for a tournament, and I don't want to. They go, no. Okay, I'll let the tournament finish. We have to go. Okay, I said, okay, fine, we're going. And I go there, and there's like a line across 2 blocks. Right? So I'm like, man, we're not waiting for it's going to take like 45 minutes. They're like, no, we have to wait, whatever. So we wait.
Okay.
And then we go in, and this ice cream store basically has the wackiest flavors that you can think of. So the first 2 flavors that I ended up trying was strawberry with cracked black pepper,
Oh, okay.
and blue cheese.
It worked?
That strawberry with cracked black pepper is my favorite ice cream. Like unreal.
Cracked black pepper, kali mirch,
Yeah.
or strawberry?
Yeah. Like unreal. And the quality of ice cream is very good. They've expanded a lot. At that point in time, this was their only store. But now they're all over the West Coast, and I think they have a few around America as well. But yeah, I think that is something that sticks in my head a lot, because before that I had never like even been subjected to anything remotely like weird in terms of flavors. So this is on another visit, but this was in San Francisco in one of the other stores. So this was during Halloween.
Okay.
And they actually had one flavor which was made from bugs. I didn't try it, but it was made from bugs. And I was like, man, this is like way too out there. But if ever you're in America and there's a salt and straw store, you should check it out.
So that means if anyone takes you for an ice cream out here and says, oh, they go hot chocolate fudge.
No.
Yeah, come on.
So their two best flavors that I really like is the strawberry with cracked black pepper.
Yes.
And there's a honey lavender.
Honey lavender.
Yeah, that one is also very nice. That's more muted, but that's also really nice. Those are my two favorite ones.
Okay.
The honey lavender is more easily available. The black pepper strawberry is not as easily, but yeah.
So whenever you head to the States, you're...
If I'm in a city with salt and straw, I'm definitely going there once.
Perfect.
For sure.
How to fix Indian food craving when abroad?
I would say you try and find a family who can feed you some nice Indian food.
Have you done something like that?
Yeah, 100%.
But, how did you do it? Like,
so I mean, look, at squash events, like there are so many families, there are so many Indians playing there as well.
Yeah.
And more often than not, the Indian family are like, you should come home, whatever, or we should take you out. And I'm like, no. If I'm actually coming over for a meal, I'll come home and they'll be like, oh, should we cook you like bakes and pastas and Chinese? I'm like, no. Just simple Indian food is the one, because you can't substitute homemade Indian food for anything else in the world.
Yeah, 100%. And finally, best travel advice.
Try and explore cities when you go there, even if you're going there with a single-minded focus of just, in our case, competing, because, that opens your mind up to a lot more things. And in a weird way, at least for me, it's helped me be a better person, and as a result, be a better player in some way. So even if it means, you feel that, you're taking away the time for, your actual sport, this is something which actually, opens your mind up to a lot of different things. So, for example, going to art galleries.
You do that?
Yeah. So going to art galleries, just sitting there, one is it slows down the pace of the day. That is great, right? And two, just understanding the creative, basis in which people have done what they've done, whether it's modern or it's like, older eras or whatever. It suddenly might click something in your head which you can apply to your game in a weird way, right? And it has happened to me. So I would say do these kind of things.
It's damn nice, man. I've gone to a couple of galleries. And I'm like, मैं मुंह नहीं खोलता नहीं तो then people start judging me and all, right? अरे सर ये क्या पेंट आपने लगाया है यहाँ पे? Yeah, but yeah, I get that. Final rapid fire. Best thing about being a professional sportsman?
Being able to travel.
Being able to travel. Worst thing about being a professional sportsman?
In a weird way, living out of a suitcase and in hotels as much as possible. So yeah.
Have you got used to giving selfies?
I would say I've gotten used to, but I wouldn't say I've gotten great at it yet.
So are you saying that the guy who's taking your selfie and then they see the photo, you're like,
I mean, I wouldn't say that, but I think I could be better. I could improve my selfie game a bit more.
Most bizarre fan moment, if any? Bizarre.
I think the first time ever, someone actually sketched my face and came and gave it to me, I was a bit taken aback. I was very humbled, but I just couldn't relate to someone actually putting in the time to do a proper sketch, and it was actually pretty good. And doing that and feeling that I actually made such a difference to their lives. I don't know if it's bizarre, but it was definitely that's the most I've ever been taken aback by something.
At that time, could you react properly when the person gave you the sketch?
No, I looked at it and I was I don't think I said anything for 10 odd seconds, right? And then I was like, is this for me? Thank you very much. And it was very sweet. So yeah.
Guilty pleasure. I think I know the answer.
Sweet. Any day.
Home food or sports specific food?
Home food.
Home food. Favorite country outside of India?
England.
Sightseeing or stay in the hotel?
Sightseeing.
How does Saurav Ghosal unwind?
Find the best places to eat and go there.
Kya baat hai. So you can afford to do that. Best friend in sport.
I think Harinder Pal Singh Sandhu. He's also a squash player.
I know.
We've spent a lot of time together. I think he's there. Ramit Tandon as well. Like, he started from the same club that I did. Him, and then from outside, James Willstrop. He's the one I kind of learned a lot from. Trained with him a lot, and yeah, he's a very very genuine guy. One of the best people I know. So yeah.
When you squash buddies and all get together, do wives, girlfriends then just be like, "Arey yaar." Again, they started talking about toes. They started talking.
Actually, the weird part is that when this group that I spoke about, when we get together, we hardly speak about squash.
Okay.
And especially someone like a James, we actually speak about plays and food and poetry and art and things like this. Squash is probably last on the agenda. So yeah.
Favorite games memory?
Favorite games?
Games memory. Asian, Commonwealth.
Oh, in that sense.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a tough one.
But purely because you're there as a team. It's
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
squash. You're there with everyone.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say Asian Games. Yeah, I think Asian Games in general, it's a bigger event. There are a lot more people. I'd say Asian Games.
And finally, advise. I think you said it at the start as well. Advice to your 18 years old self.
Just to dream bigger and to say that you have the belief that you can get to world number one day. And I think if I just done that, maybe I'd be sitting here as the world number one at some point.
You wouldn't be sitting here then, sir.
Well, maybe I would. Why not? Why not?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Saurav, thank you so much for joining us.
No,
and
thank you.
it's an absolute pleasure to have you as a mentor. And all the best in this journey.
Yes, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Take care.